So he gets ready, and I don't have to tell a joke that I haven't even thought of. Give it up for Mike O'Hagan!
Yeah!
How's everybody doing?
Yeah, good.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
You're welcome.
Rolling with Dolan.
Yeah.
As a show we were talking about Matt doing. And I couldn't help but laugh when I heard when all the stuff was going on with the announcement for the new Pope, that they were talking about our one American that was like in the running. And that's what they were calling it. They said Rolling with Dolan. I was thinking of Matt. Anyways, speaking of Pope, I'm Catholic. Any Catholics in the audience? Okay. I grew up big-time Irish Catholic. Very much into my heritage as a kid growing up. My parents were very, very much into it. I remember the first time I ever had the chance to go over to Ireland. I was actually a young guy in the military, and I took leave. And I got over there, and I remember my uncle going around with him in the morning and on his tractor, and we came across his neighbor, and his neighbor was like, "Hey, what do you think of Ireland so far?" And I said, "I think it's great." I said, "I expected to see more, you know, like thatch roof cottages and stuff like you see in the movies." So he says to me, he says, "By God, man," he says, "we have them, but nobody lives in the bloody things." He says, "I wouldn't expect to step off the plane at JFK and see fucking cowboys and Indians chasing each other around. That's some education they offer you there over in America." But yeah, my family was very, very Irish. In fact, I remember my mom, when we were kids, taking my brothers and I to march and protest in front of the British Embassy to free a guy called Bobby Sands, if anybody remembers that, who was an IRA hunger striker, who eventually died on a hunger strike. So that's pretty hardcore, you know, Irish and Catholic and all that. And I just remember thinking, like, you know, especially now, I'm glad the Irish weren't relying on me for that cause, because all the British would have had to do was just give me a couple of fudge-covered graham crackers and I would have been all over. No martyr, no songs. I go to the St. Patrick's Day parade every year. I got 2 little kids. I'm a single dad. My daughter's 6, my son's 8, and I drag them in there, willing or not, every year. And this year I saw something that really kind of amazed me. A little bit racist on my part, admittedly, but not really racist, more just observational. But I was walking down 5th Avenue, and I see this Chinese guy, and he's just going off, like, nailing the words to, like, Irish songs as the bagpipes are, like, blaring down 5th Avenue. And he's like, "The minstrel boy to the war has gone." I'm like, God damn, man, they're even taking over the St. Patrick's Day parade. Well, I'm no dummy. As you can see, my girlfriend here is from Hong Kong tonight, Jackie, the beautiful Jackie. So I figured, hey, man, I'm going to be on the inside loop, because when the shit hits the fan, I want to know what's going on. Maybe I'll just get a better job or better slavery than the rest of you when they take over, you know? Yeah, racism's crazy. It's funny. One of my friends that actually went to the parade with me this year is one of my buddies for life. Big black guy from the Bronx, my buddy Ray Knox. He actually stood beside me when I got married. Should beat him up for that, but it's funny, when we were there at the parade together, here my kids are these little freckle white-faced kids, and my daughter Shannon's 6, and just to give you a little backstory, my kids call my buddy Ray Uncle Brother. Now, anybody on the outside looking in sees this and thinks, that's kind of fucked up, man. They have no idea why. The reason why he was, just the backstory is, when he was growing up, he was the youngest, so his family all called him brother, little brother, because he had all sisters. So then when his family had kids, they just wound up calling him Uncle Brother. So now my kids, by his own request, call him Uncle Brother. But it really looks really weird for people on the outside looking in, seeing little white kids call my black friend Uncle Brother. But he came when my daughter was born. He came to the house. And very funny, I'm giving him directions. He'd never been to the house before. We just moved. And I'm saying, well, you just go. You're going to see a little yellow house. And there's a huge sign in the front lawn that says it's a girl. You can't miss it. So he's driving along, and I'm on the cell phone with him. And next thing you know, he just, like, drives right past the house. And I see him, and I turn around, and I go, dude, you just missed the house. Turn around. So he turns around, he parks, he gets out of the car, and I'm like, how could you miss it? There's like a 6-foot sign, and you didn't see the stork? And he goes, I was looking for a dolphin. No kidding. I was like, a dolphin? I was like, is there a cultural or black babies delivered by dolphins? Did I miss something? You think you guys would be better swimmers, man, you know? I always still mess with him when I talk to him. I go, hey, another big black baby coming. I go, ee, ee, ee. But racism's crazy. I have a buddy of mine His grandparents, they're deceased now, unfortunately, but they're the sweetest people, super, super nice. His grandmother was Puerto Rican, and his grandfather was Irish. His grandmother, super nice lady, but she was racist. Like, I mean, like, big-time racist. And the grandfather, who was Irish, he was totally not racist, and he was actually trying very hard to get her to see the light. In fact, the one time my buddy was telling me, he said that the grandfather told the wife, he said, hey, look, I'm having my friend Ron over from work for dinner with his wife on Thursday. So if that's all right, you know, we'll have him over. Oh, yeah, no problem, no problem. So now, meanwhile, the guy comes over, and he didn't tell her that, by the way, they're a black couple. So the couple comes over, they have a nice dinner. The grandmother buttons her lip, doesn't really say anything, have a nice conversation. And then when the couple leaves and everything's all cool and calm, she turns around and she breaks the plates and throws the plates away. And I thought, holy shit, man, are people that crazy and racist? Like, what could there possibly logic-wise be behind that, you know? And I just couldn't help but think that, like, people are just that crazy. First of all, let's just break it down a little bit. The lady's Puerto Rican, and I thought, nobody does racism like white people. Somebody might be breaking the plates when you're done with dinner. You gotta just take it down a notch there, lady. But that's how it is, you know, racism is that way. People are crazy and they just don't even think forward. They just have no logic to it. She didn't even realize if she used really, really hot water, she could have just washed the blackness right off of those plates and put them back in the... crazy, crazy. My kids, when I think about my kids, my son actually, very unfortunately, just a little bit ago, like 2 weeks ago, had to get 5 stitches in his head. So he's a little guy, and also, you know, stitches never happen at a good opportune time. So this wound up happening, and I was there in the ER till like 3 o'clock in the morning, you know. And it gets to be this certain point where, like, now I have to, like, pin him down. Because my ex-wife, his mom, can't handle it. She's, like, freaking out about it, and I'm there. And he's hysterical, crying, and now the doctor's, like, taking his sweet-ass time, and I'm, like, holding him down, having to keep him steady. And at that moment, he's, like, screaming and yelling at me, like, Dad, please, make him stop, please, stop him, please. And I just feel like, it's just such a, you know, tornado of emotions. And at that moment, I could absolutely relate to Darth Vader at some point. I can completely feel, like, the feeling of when he's looking across at the Emperor, like, shocking Luke. And I'm looking at the doctor, putting in the stitches, and I'm like, you got, like, fucking 2 more stitches for I'm gonna throw you with a goddamn rail. So, yeah, it's crazy, though. Kids are great. My kids they're funny. My daughter is a trip. My daughter, I'm 40 years old. I don't have anybody in my pool of friends that can fart on command like my 6-year-old daughter can. She's disgusting. She's the cutest little girl in the world, but she'll, like, literally come racing into my room and be like, and just, like, fart right on my leg and be, Shannon, that's disgusting, cut out. She's, like, 40 years old, and she's, like, living with, like, a really crappy frat house brother. You know what I mean? Like, frat brother in my house. My son is a wild man. He's, like, definitely, he's a great little kid, but he's crazy. And it's funny because my mom, growing up, my mom definitely warned us about, you know, I hope you're going to have a kid that's just like you, and it's like, it's totally coming true. And my mom, when we were growing up, my mother was like the sweetest lady. If you met her, she looks kind of like Sybil Shepherd. She looks like a kind of a sweet, old and nice lady. She's attractive still, and she's in her 60s now. But when we were kids growing up, again, ultra-Irish Catholic, we used to sit there, and my mom would be like, as we were going to leave the house, she'd go, "Did you bless yourself?" We had like a thing of holy water right by the door that we had to leave before we left the house. I had to bless yourselves. And now we were sitting there, and my mom would be like, you know, we'd have to take the gallon of, like, water, like a milk gallon, a container of water, bring it up to the rectory and have it blessed by, like, Monsignor McQuaid, bring it back to the house, and, you know, and then that's how we'd, you know, bless ourselves. So after a little while, as kids, we'd just put that shit down and just go play for, like, 45 minutes and bring it back. Then after, like, 3 months or so, like Catholics, you pile off the steps at the end of Mass, and the priest is there shaking hands with everybody. And my mom would be like, "Oh, did you see the boys that came by?" And he's like, "Yeah, she just came by. They came by on Friday, right?" And the priest is like, "No, I haven't seen them for months." And my mom would be like, "Son of a bitch, bastard, you embarrassed me in front of the priest. God damn it, you make me look bad." She would be the type, she would come in the morning, and she'd be like all in a good mood, and she'd be like, "You know, my joys, my boys, wake up, school days, like a little song and everything." And then she'd leave out, and then she'd come back in, like, you know, 15, 20 minutes later, and we're still sleeping in our Spider-Man underoos, and she'd be like, fucking fucker, you're gonna give me a heart attack, son of a bitch, bastard, you're gonna make me late for it, get up, you know? So it was crazy, but and we used to beat the shit out of each other all the time. My brothers and I have 2 brothers, and we literally would beat the living crap out of each other, and that's just the way it was, you know, a lot of beatings. And my mom, you know, when we were growing up, she was very physical too. But let me leave you off with this. This is one crazy story. We had this buddy when we were kids, and we took like a brick and tied it around a rope around it, and then threw it up over a tree branch, right? And then took the other side, and we were young kids. We were like, I don't know, 8 or 9 or something. And we were trying to figure out, like, we were tying it off to this kid, Kevin, his belt loop. And we're sitting there going, nah, that knot's no good. That's not going to hold. And we untie it, tie it again. Nah, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. All concerned about the knot, never minding that it's tied to a friggin' belt loop that's held on by thread. So meanwhile, now we take it and we start hoisting this kid up. And we're hoisting up and he's getting lifted up in the air. He's like 20 feet. We're swinging his feet like Peter Pan. And we're like, all like, I'm next. I got this, you know. Next thing you know, he gets like 20 feet in the air. And pop, the thing snaps. And he goes flying down to the ground. Bam! Compound fracture of both wrists. Broke his bones. He had to have multiple surgeries and everything. It was just ridiculously crazy. And then I saw him later on now, and like friended him on Facebook. He has like little arms like a T-Rex and everything. Totally fucking around, none of that. The second part of the story is true, that's all. The first part's real, the second part's totally fake. I'll leave you with one thing. I was at a buddy's bachelor party, this is quite a while back, but it was Atlantic City. And we're sitting there, and as the bachelor party's wrapping up, you know, it was like, I don't know, 7 o'clock in the morning or so on a Sunday. So I just went outside to get some fresh air, and I'm out there, and I'm sitting on one of the benches, and I see these little old black ladies, and they're completely dressed up in like their full church gear, like they got the church hats, the church dresses and everything, and they're walking on the board, and they're eating a funnel cake, and the one lady's like, oh Lord, this is so delicious, you gotta try some of this, Gladys, come here. And they're eating the funnel cake, and they're walking along and everything, and next thing you know, these freaking seagull just comes down and goes, boom, and grabs the funnel cake and starts to lift off up in the air with it. And it doesn't get very far, and it just breaks apart, and the whole funnel cake goes, pop, lands right on the lady's hat. And then a mob of seagulls were just going bananas attacking her. And she's like 40 feet away, and she's like, oh Lord, help me, help me, help me. And she's running around like this, trying to, and I'm just sitting there like paralyzed in laughter. And her friend's coming, she's trying to swat the thing off her head. She's like this. And finally I did get up, and I went over there, and what can I do? There's nothing left to do. I picked up her purse. And I'm thinking in retrospect, I probably should have given that back to her. That's it, everybody thinks that's my time.
The Irish. No problem, no problem. Let me, I gotta tell you, I'm just not feeling myself. You know, this whole breakup thing is crazy. Ever been broken up with? Anybody in the room?